October 2022. Let's start. First picture, immediately we start with film. That's taken with an old camera, foldable camera, which is 6x6, Balda Super Baldax, that takes 120 film. That's an Ektar, Kodak Ektar 100 ISO film. This camera is super compact. I had the film I had developed and scanned, just went through my archives and looked at what I had, and I found this picture interesting. This camera has problems moving the film inside when you go from one shot to another. So it does multi-exposure on the borders and always gives me weird textures. So I kind of like it. I'm still wondering if I should repair it or keep using it with its really peculiar character. But that's my first shot. It's a cloth that's put on a boat. Anyways, it's kind of abstract. So, but I had taken a series of pictures at the time, and this one came out to me this time. Again, film. Two pictures taken with a Canon MC, very compact, autofocus, auto exposure camera from 1984. It's with a Kodak Gold 200 film. I think it's an old film, so I'm not sure. That's why the rendering of colors is kind of weird. I do like that kind of experimental look. And on the left, that's the Geneva Rad, the Geneva Bay. I liked the feeling from this picture. Kind of not of depressed, but in between depression and boredom. And on the right, that's a picture from the Pacific Ocean, north of California. I was attracted by those lines, those lines in the sand, those traces going into the ocean. I like those small cameras with film that I put in a pocket and slowly expose, and it's kind of a trace of the travels I've done, the places I've been, because I usually don't take many shots with one. I just end the film after a while. Here again, film, black and white. That's with Cinestill XXX 100 ISO film on an Olympus XA rangefinder. This fantastic camera is super compact, a great lens, 35mm f2.8 lens. Not sure I'm in f2.8 with those two pictures, but I know they're not taken at the same place. I don't really remember where, but I liked the diptych feel of those two pictures. Might include them in the project in the future. This Cinestill XXX film is obviously very Tri-X from Kodak inspired, if not linked to. I should check this out. And here we're going to digital. So two pictures from a trip to Greece, to Crete actually, the island south of Athens in Heraklion. Those pictures are part of a video I've already posted about a very special lens for Leica cameras, which is a Tri-Elmar MATE. It's not a zoom lens, it's a 3 focal length lens. And that's on an M240 digital camera. Always try to take photos of things I really feel are interesting visually. If I have time, I usually prefer living the moment and taking a picture of it. But if I have a camera on me, I'll take one or two pictures, sometimes more. Here again, same equipment, giving a good idea of the daytime feel of the place, the sunny times. I actually really like zoom lenses are not usually very good with bokeh. This is not really a zoom lens, but definitely the bokeh to me is very pleasing, very soft, more like a prime lens one. So a very interesting lens. If you're interested, go check the separate video. Again, those two pictures, I found them interesting because it's the same place, not exactly the same point of view, but really depending on what time of the day, not at all the same field colors. It seems obvious, but yeah, I kind of like the having those two next to each other. And again, when traveling, I try to take pictures when I find them interesting. Again, for the exercise, also for the memories, obviously, to share some moments. And here on the right side, we see the limits of now older camera, which is the M240 with the digital grain coming out when you push the low light. Those two pictures, the one on the left is still same equipment, still Heraklion. Just to say once in a while, I say I never touch my pictures in post-processing. I never modified geometry except once in a while. The picture on the left, I did some post-processing, some perspective control, because the picture in itself is not very interesting, but it was really didn't work how it was before, so I straightened it. I think if you need to, if it's not really visible, I'm not sure you would have said it was corrected, just for the example. And on the right, again, same place. Historically, I find it interesting from the Roman Empire to modern days. I think humans are still the same. They're still attracted to the beauties of nature. Anyways, and then going through the city, street photography, trying to find some interesting scenes. I like this broken sculpture in a field, or this chair. Somebody sort of improvised a terrace to enjoy the sun. Yeah, some pictures, some notes from where I was. So now let's go to film. Going back to what I like really a lot, it's using APS film. It's this film that was abandoned when the digital cameras really became popular. It's the last try for the film industry to keep hold of the power they had. So that's a Fuji Nexia D100 film, expired since more than 20 years. I'm sure it's used on a Canon reflex camera from the time. It's an EOS IX with a Sigma 500mm f7.2 lens. I find it interesting because I was testing it here, testing this setup. At the time, there was really great reflex cameras. It's a camera that takes standard EOS format lenses on it. And that's actually this APS film format gave its size, the standard size for APS sensors. So there's the link. And here, I was just experimenting with this film and lens because it's basically, because of the size of the film, it's basically a 750mm field of view, like 750mm lens, because it doesn't take all the surface. The grain of expired film, the color distortion, and I do like it. I don't know what I'm going to do with those pictures. Might include them in a series in the future, but yeah. Then we go to something else. That's me traveling to Iceland for a test of a lens, which is a Summarex 85mm f1.5, a historical lens from a design made in 1936. There will be a separate video talking about that lens, but this is adapted on a Leica SL2. I usually test my lenses on the SL2 camera because it's 47 megapixel. It's got a great sensor, stabilization, and anyhow, I really like that camera. And I found those two pictures interesting because it's taken through the window of a plane, and the rendering is kind of not at best, but I really liked the way we saw. You actually see the cracks from the geological movement of the plates underneath. And I did some small post-processing to remove the haze from the airplane window. But you already get the character of this old lens through it, the color rendering and the vignetting, and that's pictures from the south of the island of Iceland, the Reykjanes Peninsula. Again, Reykjavik. I'm going here to that's the Reykjavik Bay. A good idea of how it looks like. The first snow on the Mount Esja. Named Esjan in Icelandic. It's a mountain, the one mountain you see from the city, which is above 900 meters high. Beautiful sight, and again testing this lens was an incredible bokeh. Again, it's the occasion. Besides, I'm testing a new lens. I'm also trying to create scenes, and here's just this diptych. My idea was to try to make something weird of one object, I have a series working on this. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with it, but um, this this is a boat in the harbor that I've been working on photographically. I mean, I'm not the one painting it, but yeah, interesting composition in my opinion. And then when I'm living around doing my other stuff, I do take a few pictures just to try things out. So I'm looking at scenes, trying to find some interesting pictures, but also memorizing moments. On the right, that's a performance by an Icelandic artist, Elisabeth Birta Sveinsdottir, at the Marshallhuset, which is a house where there's different studios and galleries. There's, for example, Olafur Eliasson's studio, or the I8 gallery. And she's a performing artist, and that's a performance she was giving. Just took a few pictures, trying to live the moment too. That's always a priority. And that's at the Klingenbang, I believe, the gallery, or the space. Again, walking around town, trying to catch some ambiance, some moments. Another two images that give an idea also of the quality of this old lens. Always think about the equipment you use. Some people say it's not the equipment that counts. Yeah, it does at a certain point. If you want a really soft bokeh, a field of view or depth of field of a certain type, you need the equipment you need. So yeah, I always test equipment like this. And here are those two photos. I found interesting, first of all, the Northern Lights are always fantastic to look at. But then you have some architectural reminders. We're in Reykjavik, so obviously the architects thought about it. And I don't like the architecture of the building per se, but I think its lighting equipment works well. It's kind of, we see where that comes from. It's pretty nice. Again, going places, taking a few photos. Here I like those two pictures. It's in Gaukurin, a fantastic bar and concert hall that was during a burlesque performance. I just took one or two pictures of the drinker on the left because I liked the lights. And actually that's the right picture is the only one I really took which was in focus and made sense. I try not to take too many pictures when I'm not there for taking pictures. I think enjoying the moment is going to be the best filter to when you really need to take an interesting picture. Not saying this is interesting. It is for me, but I basically didn't take so many pictures. I spent my time enjoying the moment. Here are two pictures leaving Iceland, always same equipment. On the left, Eyjafjallajökull, that's the volcano that disturbed the whole air traffic a few years back when it blew up in the morning, obviously. And on the right, that's the Vestmannaeyjar Bear Islands, south of Iceland. Yeah. Then we go to something completely different. That's using the Pentax Q system cameras and lenses. Actually, it's a Pentax Q, 12 megapixel sensor, but definitely not the same rendering as a modern smartphone. It's, in my opinion, way better. One, because it's a really high-end sensor that's optimized for really great lenses. It's really tiny. It's not that much bigger than a smartphone. It's a different shape factor, but it's got IBIS, internal body image stabilization. Here it's at 6400 ISO, and using the number one lens, which is basically a 40 millimeter f1.9 or 1.7 equivalent lens for 35 millimeter size. Anyways, and I was experimenting with some movements, and I really like the grain of this and the rendering of those sensors when you take the raw file. Again, two pictures, trying to move around and doing some abstract stuff. Very interesting rendering with those sensors. And yeah, I like that diptych. Again, I don't know what I'm going to do with those pictures, but I start by taking pictures and trying to find inspiration. And yeah, going to something completely different. That's medium format, Leica S006 CCD sensor. Using Hasselblad V system lens, 110mm f2.0 planar lens with the macro ring. I guess that day I was getting bored. I wanted to do something, take a picture or whatever. And my Parmesan was moldy because of the blue cheese next to it. And I found the texture super interesting. So that was a great pretext to test that camera. I don't really know what those pictures are meant to become. At least I'm presenting them now. And I actually like them. I like the diptych. But yeah, photography is also about the process, the pleasure of taking pictures. Even if it makes no sense, it's sometimes fun to do, and it's a good exercise. And here are the two last photos of this serial this month. Again, same camera, the Leica medium format S006, 37 something megapixel CCD, using this time a Hasselblad sonar, 180 millimeter f4 Carl Zeiss lens. That's for a series. So here it's more constructed. I brought some accessories. I went somewhere I wanted to go to, trying to do this diptych. I'm pretty satisfied of the results, but it makes no real sense without the rest of the series, and it's still a work in progress. But still, yeah, it's part of the month's serial process, and I thought I'd show you those two last pictures. Hope you enjoyed. Comments and questions welcome below, and hopefully see you next time.